Hey there, Cherrie. So we've got another essay from you. Wonderful. Let's take a look and see what you wrote here. This is the one about local food and if it's better for the environment and economy if we eat only that. Here's what you said. The issue of whether consumers should purchase food from the domestic market or not is a debatable topic over the past decade. I strongly agree with the local farmers and environmentalists that encourage consumers to no, let's try that again. I strongly agree with the local farmers and environmentalists who encourage... No, we have to change this whole sentence around. Let's try it again. I strongly agree with the local farmers and environmentalists who believe that local food consumption is a must simply because it brings enormous positive impacts to the environment and local economy. All right, fine. Okay, there is no denying that food transportation is one of the pressing environmental issues nowadays. This is because, not it is because, this is because the amount of gas emissions due to long food miles has been severely damaging the nature and accelerated the effects with the S of global warming. For example, recent empirical research by the University of Sydney supported that purchasing local food might reduce local food produce. Okay, how about just local produce? Might reduce up to 1/3 of the carbon footprint on the road. Therefore, it is conclusively clear that from the perspective of protecting the environment, food buyers should carefully consider to buy local products only. All right. Fine. Another reason is that, another reason what? Another reason for what? Say it to me, state it clearly. Another reason in support of local food consumption is that supporting local products can lead to a positive chain effect to the whole economy. Due to the growing trend of food globalization, local farmers have suffered financially. Get rid of this bin. Due to the fact that the cost of growing locally is significantly higher than in some developing countries, and consequently, consumers tend to choose cheaper products. There is ample evidence, get rid of this "and", to suggest that if consumers do not choose to support domestic goods, Australia will soon experience serious social and economic implications. Okay? Where is the takeaway here? Where is that sentence at the end of the paragraph that links it back to the first sentence? Okay? You've learned it from the template. You used it here, but I would like to see it here again. In conclusion, I strongly agree with the notion of local food consumption, through which both the environment and economy can greatly benefit. Get rid of this B. It would have been a beautiful sentence, nice and grammatically advanced, but this B here was a mistake, and so that creates an error there. I'm a little concerned about your word count. As you probably noticed, I took away a few words. I added a few, but I don't think I added more than I took away. And so the question is where could you have beefed this up a little bit? Well, one place you could have beefed it up a little with words was here by adding that conclusive statement. Where else? You could have said something more about this too. So give me an example of a food from a developing country that is cheaper than in a developed country that is produced locally. I would have liked that. I think that would have made this more convincing and would have supported this a little better. So that's something I would have definitely liked to have seen as well. On the whole, it's pretty good. There was some advanced grammar. Again, we talked about it. I already told you that some of it had some issues, but it was a good attempt overall. Okay, let's take a look now at your task 1. Okay, here is the chips. Also brief. Let's see if we can find this image so we can refer to it. Okay, I didn't want to spend too much time looking for it. I couldn't find it readily. It's not a big deal. I've seen it probably about 1,000 times. So, but just keep in mind when you do one of these task 1s, if you can include the image in the file with your answer, it's really helpful. All right, so like I said, I pretty much can see this with my own head, so I don't need to look at it. The bar chart illustrates the monthly sales of computer chips by Intel and AMD in France from January to December 2017. There was a growing trend of sales for Intel in the first quarter, from 50,000 in January to almost double the sales in March, reaching 100,000, before it plunged to only 30,000 chips sold in April. Nevertheless, the sales climbed back up again to nearly 90,000 pieces in May and reached its peak, get rid of that too, in June with over 120,000 pieces recorded. Okay. On the other hand, the best-selling months for AMD were, not are, were February, July, September, and October with over 120,000. 110, 90, 80 recorded... What's going on here? This is one sentence? Let's look at it again. On the other hand, the best-selling months for AMD were February, July, September, and October with over 120, 110, 90, and 80,000 chips sold recorded respectively, while the low seasons were June with no sales recorded in November with less than 10,000 chips sold. All right, that was too long. And then even this respectively, it doesn't help. It's just too long. It's just too complicated. I wanted you to break this up into at least 2 sentences, okay? Overall, the trend of chip sales for both corporations experienced constant fluctuations in the period given. Intel outperformed AMD and in the majority of the months, especially in the months of June and November. All right, so here there's a number of problems. Let's talk about your paragraph for Intel. You told me where it started out, and you really were very detailed about the whole first 6 months. And then you give me nothing. There is nothing about Intel for the rest of the 6 months. So it's like I only have 3/4 of the bar chart. I mean, you told me the main figures for AMD, but I definitely don't have this for Intel. I only have the first half of the year in great detail, but I don't have anything about the second half of the year, and that's a problem. What I would have liked to see here is the following. First of all, I didn't like the way you did this. I understand the best-selling months. Okay, I get it, but I think you could have done this a little more fluidly rather than just kind of listing. That's what it felt like. It felt just like a list. That's one thing. The other thing that I would have liked is if you had divided this year a little more appropriately. Some of the really successful task ones that I have seen on this particular chart split the year in half. And then when you look at the year in half like that, you can really pick up some trends. So you can see that Intel appears to outsell AMD in the first half of the year, and then AMD really kind of picks up steam in the second half of the year. So I find that when I do it like that, some trends are definitely more noticeable. So what you could do is then write a paragraph on that first half of the year talking about Intel and then talking about AMD. And then the second paragraph, do the same thing with the second half of the year. Do you have to mention all 24 pieces of information? No, absolutely not. The important ones, the key ones, or what I always support is really grouping things together. I'm a huge fan of that. Grouping similar months together, just kind of using, how can I say this, one sentence to talk about several different maybe months or figures or something like that. Okay, so that's what I want to see a little more of. This was fine. Your overview was fine. I didn't have a problem there. Like I said, I did feel like when I saw this, I was like, oh, that's rather brief. Well, yeah, it's rather brief because you really didn't, you missed about 6 months of Intel. So that was a little problem for me, okay? And then, like I said already, I wasn't really happy with the way you described this. It just felt very like a list, really, like a list. The best-selling months were A, B, C, and D. Okay, well, I mean, I would have liked a little bit more about that, a little more of the changes, of the shifts, of the fluctuations. I mean, just something a little more informative rather than just the highlights of that year. All right, so Cherrie, go ahead and correct these, return them back corrected, and let's see if you can apply some of these suggestions in your following essays. I'm looking forward to it. Good luck.